Good day and welcome to this episode of CodeAlong with gOZie. Today we'll be looking at HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a language that is used to provide the browser with instructions on how to present contents. It's used to tell the browser to present contents as headings or paragraphs or buttons or links, just everything that has to do with a structure, not styling. It's not a language that is used to color texts or make buttons look good. Just all it does is just to present the content on the browser. Now, how do we go about this? What are the softwares you need? All you need is a text editor for writing the instructions and a browser. A browser could be your Internet Explorer or Google Chrome or your Firefox. That's my Internet Explorer here. Now, I normally use Chrome. I have a browser ready. Well, now all computers come with a text editor. At least I know Linux operating system comes with a text editor. Mac operating system comes with a text editor. I'm using Windows, so I'll pop up my text editor, Notepad. Okay, and I'll start providing instructions. The first instruction is to tell the browser that HTML starts here and that HTML ends here. Okay, and then I'm going to tell the browser that the head section, which is a basic section of a web page, starts here and the head section ends here. Now I'll tell you that the body section starts here and that the body section ends here. Please, we're going to go into details on these tags. All we want to do now is to show you how to use the text editors and the tools that we're going to have. It's just basic introduction. Then we'll go into them briefly. I would like the page to have a title, and the title should be, okay, let me close the title tag first. Title tag closed, okay. And my first web page, and within the body tags I'm going to have a heading. The heading should have the content, hello world. Okay, now the very vital part here is how to save. Now if you save this file now, it will save as .txt. A file extension is used to tell the computer to locate applications for reading the instruction. When you save a file as .txt, which is the default file extension for Notepad, you're asking the computer to read that document with the text editor. Now we want to build a web page, so we are going to tell the computer to open this page with a browser. Now, how to do that is to save it properly. Save as, go to the save as type, select all files. Now save this as home.html. I believe you can take note of the file extension .html that is used to tell the browser to tell the computer to open this file with a browser. Okay, so when I click save, you see home. You can see home here. Okay, it's just this page. So all I need to do is to double click on it. Okay, you can see we had the heading hello world, and we had the title my first web page here. So basically we have just built our web page, not the professional environment for doing this. Now there's something called an IDE, integrated development environment. That's the professional environment for building applications, no matter what sort of application, whether it's mobile application or web application or whatever the application is. When you're building any form of application, you will most likely enjoy using an IDE. And I use VS Code, and I'll advise you to download VS Code. I'll point you to how to get that done. So to get VS Code, normally I like using Google. I'll pop up my browser, go to Google, type Visual Studio Code. Okay, and that's the first one. You can see I've been to the page before now. Go there. That's my Windows, so pick whichever one you like, install it on your system. I already have it on my system, so I'm not going to click on it. Now, we are not going to be using Notepad. from now henceforth we'll be using VS Code. Okay, so let's open a VS Code. So this is how VS Code looks like. I'm on a dark mode anyway. This is our development section of it, and this is the file and folder part of it with a few sections. It's a very powerful IDE to help us a lot to get some of our jobs done without wasting our time. Okay, so as soon as you install it on your system, you could open it and then get to an environment where you have welcome and the rest. So let's close it for now. Whenever you have a web project or any form of any form of development project, one of the first things you're supposed to do is to create a folder. So for these our tutorials, I'm going to create a folder here, new folder, and I'm going to name it CodeAlong. Okay. Now I'm going to open the folder and right click on the white space, then open with code. That's opening the folder with VS Code. Okay. Now it's opened. For most projects you're going to be building, most web projects you're going to be working on, you will have files of different formats. You're going to have video files, image files, audio files, HTML files, CSS files, JavaScript files, and it is not professional to have all of them just scattered on the base on your root folder. So what you're going to do is to create folders for organization. So one of the first things I do whenever I come into a new project is to create folders for all these classifications of files. So I'm going to have a folder that holds all my CSS files. I'm going to have another folder that holds all my JS files. I'm going to have another folder that holds all my image files. I'm going to title it IMG. Now, I want to look at this icon. It's called New Folder. So that's why I click there to create the folders. That's why I click there to create all these folders. Now, I want to create my home page. My home page. Home pages should be named index or home.html, but I would advise you to always go for index. Okay. So now we have this icon here that says new file. So I'm going to click on it, and I'll name it index.html. Okay, so the page is popped on our development environment. Now remember what I said. Your home page should be named either index or home. One of these two. You don't just choose whatever you want to name your home page. It's either index or home. Although I would advise you to always name your homepage index.html. Okay, now every web project you're building must have a homepage. So you must have a file that is named index.html or home.html. And like I said, I would prefer you use index.html. Okay. Now let's get back to the first web page you built and look at some vital parts of it. You can look at some of these texts that are enclosed with a left and right angle bracket. You can look at the one that has HTML in it, and then there's another one. It's like they come in pairs. Yes, they do come in pairs. This is called the opening tag, and this is called the closing tag. We'll get into that briefly. But I want you to take note of the fact that even when I want to have something printed on the page, I will want to wrap those things with one of these tag pairs. It's a way of telling the browser that I want, especially those of them in the body section, is a way of telling the browser that I want this content, the one highlighted, to be rendered. Render is a word that means to display or maybe convert. Okay, to be rendered as a heading. So this is a heading 1 tag that is used to inform the browser to display this as a heading. Let's look at the basic ones you should know. By that I mean what which of these tags are used to produce the fundamental web page. We used to produce a fundamental web page. So let's get back to VS Code. Now, VS Code has a shortcut for this. So I think I'll have to present it on the screen and explain them line by line. Now, if you hold down the Shift key and press 1, you will have this pop up on your screen. Then you press Enter to display a fundamental web page structure. So let's look at this one by one. Line 1. Line 1 is used to tell, it's called a doc type. It is used to inform the browser what standards it's supposed to use to display its content. Now, line 1 is telling the browser to use HTML5 standards. Now, there are standards for HTML4 and so on. So let's look at some of the standards. Now, this is the doc type standard for HTML4. And this is that for HTML5. So whenever the browser sees this, it takes note of the fact that the content it's supposed to display should be displayed in accordance with the rules and the standardized rules and regulations for displaying HTML4 content. And if it sees this, then HTML5. There are tags and technologies that are involved in HTML5 that are included in HTML5 that are not in HTML4. So please take note. It's the latest HTML version available. So that's what our line 1 here is instructing the browser to ensure that the page that will be displayed in accordance with HTML5. Now, line 2 is an opening tag, an opening HTML tag. Okay, we'll look at elements after looking at the web page structure. Line 2 is an opening HTML tag, which says, okay, my HTML, that's the web page, and its content and everything that has to do with it starts here, and it has a closing HTML tag. Let me take this off for now. I'll put it back later when we start talking about attributes. Okay, so you could see that if I take this out, all we have is an opening tag, opening HTML tag, and a closing HTML tag that delimits where the HTML section of where the HTML starts and ends. You will always have one of this pair on every page, just like you always have one doc type on every page. So let me put that back. Now, within the HTML tags, you have 2 sections, the head section and the body section. The body section controls everything that is displayed on the browser. So let's look at this page from the folder and see. You can see that the body section is blank. All you have is a title that says document, and that's because we have document here in the title. Now, before we get to title, what are these things? These 3 lines from line 4 to line 6, they're called meta. All these other ones come in pair, but this one comes alone, doesn't have a pair. They're called self-closing tags. They don't have closing tags, so that's why I call self-closing. We'll, as we go on, we'll see that most of these HTML tags are double tags. Most of these tags come in pairs, then a few are self-closing. Now, these meta tags are used to present metadata, kind of like an extra information about the information that will be presented on the browser. So the first one is used to instruct the browser on how to encode characters. Okay, don't touch this. It's just leave it at UTF-8 unless on very rare occasions. Okay, now line 5 is used to make your Internet Explorer, that's the default browser that comes with your Windows, compatible with some HTML5 standards that are not rendered in that are not implemented with in Internet Explorer. Okay, now line 6 is used to instruct the browser on how to handle the display of your page across different gadgets. For instance, it will look like this on my browser, and depending on the mobile phone I'm using, it will look like this on the mobile phone. Okay, this is Pixel 2. I could change it to see how it looks on iPhone 6. Okay, it's empty, so you may not see the effect. We'll look at it when we get to the sections and how it will look like on iPad and so on and so forth. So this line 6 is used to tell the browser, ensure the width of this browser matches the width of the media, whether it's browser or phone or tablet that is displayed, that the page is displayed on. And this section is used to control the zoom. Okay, so I kind of like bring all the content up. So there are some of these websites, a few of them these days. There used to be so many of them back in the days where you visit the site, the text is too tiny. You need to zoom in to be able to read them. The sites could have done with line 6. Okay, now line 7 is just the title, so we could change this to it's a CodeAlong with gOZie, and if I refresh this page, you can see that this has changed to CodeAlong with gOZie. So all these things you see here, all these titles you see here, are controlled by the title tag. So like I said earlier, anything that must be displayed here must be within the opening and closing body tags. So let's have a heading there, a heading 1 that says hello world. Sorry for the spelling. Hello world with exclamation, and then we'll refresh. Okay, now let's look at what is called an element. This is an element. This is an element from the opening H1 tag to the closing H1 tag and everything in between. This is an element. Okay, this is called the opening tag, and this is called the closing tag. I want to take note of the difference between the opening tag and the closing tag. Take note of the difference. You can see that the opening tag doesn't come with this slash here. Oh, sorry. Okay, just like the body section, the closing body tag comes with the slash. The closing HTML tag comes with the slash too. So all closing tags come with a slash. So take note. The difference between the opening tag and the closing tag for elements that come in pairs. Not all elements come in pairs. For elements that come in pairs, the difference between the opening tag and the closing tag is the slash. Okay. So let me bring it back to the same line. Now, from the opening tag to the closing tag, including the content that should be displayed, is called an element. So from here to here is called a H1 element. Remember I said an element includes the opening tag, the content, and the closing tag. One more thing. There's something called an attribute. An attribute is always in the opening tag and is used to provide the browser with extra information on how to display the content. So let me do something that is not advisable, but when we get to CSS, we'll look at why. Let me put a style to this tag and say change the color to red. Okay, so we just provided the browser with extra information on how to style heading 1. There are other attributes you could have, like if I want to identify this heading 1, I'll give it an ID and I'll call this special heading. So this is a way of identifying this particular one. In case you have multiple elements of the same and you want to identify a particular one for whatever the reasons are. Okay, there are so many of them. They could have an ID, you could have a class, you could have a data type, or whatever the attribute you want is. But just take note that an attribute comes within the opening tag, and it comes as a name and value pair, and they are connected together with the equal sign. So the attribute will have the attribute name, the value of the attribute, and an equal sign in between. An element could be nested inside another one. For instance, look at our structure. You can see that H1 is nested within a body tag, a body element, and the body element is nested within an HTML element. When we get to CSS and JavaScript, you see why these things are important. Where we see this H1 as a child of the body element, and the body element as a child of the HTML element. It's called nesting. This is called nesting. But if the idea of parent and child relationship appeals to you, you could look at it like that. But the idea is, I want my H1 within the body tag. I will have to put the whole H1 element, which comprises of the opening tag, the attributes if there is one, the content, and the closing HTML tag within the opening and the closing tag. So let's look at this again. So let's say we have another tag. We're going to look at that a little later. A div tag, and I want to put a second type of heading called heading 2 here, and within that I want to put a paragraph. Okay, so you can see that I have these two elements nested within the opening and closing div element. Common errors you might encounter will be to move the closing paragraph off here. I've seen some students do it in the past. I don't know how they come to it, but if you see something like this, it's wrong. Okay, if you want to nest an element inside another one, the opening tag and the closing tag must be within that one. Another pitfall I see here with some students is they're somehow deleting their body and HTML tag where they're struggling with typing anyway. But take note, you must have your body and it must just be one. I've also seen students who have used like 3 or 4 different opening and closing body tags. You only have one you only have one pair of the body tag, one body element. You only have one body element on a page, one head element on a page, one HTML element on the page, and one doc type. Now, within the body tags, you could have so many of different other elements, but take note of these ones. All those tags I presented on the screen when I was talking about the basic web page, you could only have one occurrence of them per page. Now, let's look at how to instruct the browser to display headings. Let's create a new page. Heading, sorry for spelling, headings.html. Of course, we code our fundamental web page structure by holding down Shift and pressing 1, then press Enter. I will change the heading, the title as HTML headings, and here we can now look at headings. Now, what are these headings? Headings are titles or subtitles that you want to display on a web page. Now, why are they important? They are important because search engines like Google or Yahoo or Ask use headings to index the structure and content of a web page. Let's look at what that means. Now, if I open my browser and I make a search for Figma, that's a front-end prototyping platform, you can see here that the browser, the search engine Google does not just show us Figma. It shows us different sections of the Figma site. This is because this site was built with proper heading, proper titles and subtitles, heading with different layers of the headings. That's why I have this. But there are other sites. Let's say you could search Adobe. We could search Adobe and okay, you could see the same structure of different sections. Let's just pick let's check Central Bank of Nigeria. I think the last time I went there, they were okay. They don't have proper structure, but this is what I mean. Like pages with proper headings will have this kind of result when searched on search engine. Headings are also used to give users the ability to skim through your site. Some weeks ago, I was reading a document, an article online that says that your visitor, those that will be using your site for the first time, they spend like 7 to 10 seconds to decide whether they should stay on your site or go to, or move to a competitor. Now, to give them ability to go through that site very fast, that skimming, use headings. Now, let's look at the different types of headings. HTML has 6 types of headings. Heading 1. Okay, so let's type heading 1 here so that we'll be able to differentiate between them when we get to the browser. Heading 1, H2, heading 2. I hope you know the content could be anything. Content could be code, be any title, or subtitle. That depends on what you want to render, depending on what you want to display. Okay, now H5, there are 6 of them. Heading 5, heading 6. Oh, sorry. Please don't do something like this. All your content must come within a tag. Remember, the tag is used to instruct the browser. So if you put content like that, there's no instruction. H6, heading 6. Okay, so let's look at the file and see. Oh, sorry, desktop. CodeAlong heading. Alright, so you can see that heading 1 is the largest heading and heading 6 is the smallest one.